In this demonstration, I want to show you how we can use FileZilla to transfer our files from localhost computer to the class server. Okay, so first of all, I went ahead and I opened FileZilla, and the next thing that we need to do is we need to put our credentials up here. So we're going to go to matlamp.miracosta.edu, and then the username is going to be your W number. In my case, I have something different because I'm an instructor, but this is where you would put your W number under username. And then your password will be your surf password. Port is 22, and that tells it that it's going to use SFTP, and you can hit Quick Connect. And then it's going to ask you the first time about an unknown host key. This is totally normal, and it's giving you a fingerprint for the host. You can say always trust this host, and so then go ahead and just click on OK. And then it's going to connect. It's going to drop you on the right side into your home directory for the Matlamp server, and it's going to be your directory that you have highest level of access to. Okay, and what you see automatically is that mine says Elcotner, yours will be your W number. And what I am not 100% sure about, because I'm an instructor, I have different level of privileges, I'm not sure if you're going to see this part where it says /home/USA. In fact, I'm not even sure if you're going to see any of this. What you might see instead is just a / that shows that that's your root level directory. You might not see any of the stuff up here. If you do, fine, great. If you don't, it's also fine. It just means that it's your highest level of access on that server. What's important though is that whenever you are dropped in, that you will see these three folders. You'll see private, WordPress, and dub. Everything on the right side is the remote server. Everything on the left side is our current local computer. On the left side, on the local side, what we need to do is we need to navigate to where we keep our htdocs folder, because we're presumably going to be uploading stuff from our local host environment, which is, you know, in that environment we store our web stuff in the htdocs folder. So I'm on a Mac. If you're on Windows, I'll give you an address that you could type, but on the local side up here on a Mac, let's say that you're using the XAMPP, because that's what we're doing in this class in all of the tutorials, using the XAMPP development package. Well, that's going to be stored in applications with a capital A. And then you'll notice that the first thing is if you start to type something in a pathway and it already exists, it'll do auto completion, and then you can just arrow over, and that is fine. All right. The other thing you could do is you could come down here in this file path and you could start looking in the drop downs and stuff. But because I happen to know what it is, I could just type it up here. If you don't know what it is, you would look under the root level of the computer, then go to applications, and then you scroll until you find the capital XAMPP, and it's right here. And you see it starts to autocomplete up here. All right, and so I could also just start to type that, and it goes to XAMPP files, and then and then we have htdocs. Okay, so if I click on that and I just hit enter right up here, it automatically selects it for me in this view. And then what it does is down below in this bottom pane on the left, it shows me the contents of this htdocs folder. All right, that's what FileZilla is going to do. Whatever you have selected in this top pane, whether it's on your local side or whether it's on your remote side, the top pane is going to show you nothing but folders, and then you select a folder, and then in the bottom pane it'll show you the contents of that folder that you have selected. Okay, if you're on Windows, you're obviously not going to be using this pathway. It would be something like C:\\XAMPP and then \htdocs. Okay, and that's most likely going to be the path that you're using. What I'm looking for is my dev folder, which is down here. So if I double click this down here, you see that automatically up in the top pane it selects it, and then it changes the bottom pane so that I'm looking at the contents of my dev folder. Now, your dev folder isn't going to have all this stuff, so don't worry about it. Yours is probably going to be somewhat empty. I just have a bunch of stuff in there already. I'm going to sort of scroll down though, and I'm going to look for info.php. And let's say that I want to put info.php up on my server. Well, where do I put that? Well, let's take a look over on the right side. All right, so we're currently connected, and like I said, in your student directory, you're going to have private, WordPress, and www. I'm not going to worry about the www stuff right now. I guess I could show you. I just don't want to confuse you. If you were to look inside of here, you're going to see an index file, and it's going to confuse you. Don't even pay attention to this. The system administrators for the college, in order to give us this space to do PHP and WordPress, kind of almost unsupervised in some ways, what they required is to do a whole bunch of security stuff, and that included a lot of confusing redirections, and that's what this is. I'm not going to explain how it works. I'm just going to tell you, just leave this alone and don't fool with it, okay? Now, if I click on WordPress up here in the top pane, it shows me the contents down here. Okay, well, the WordPress folder, I can also show the drop down like this. That WordPress folder, everybody's going to have it, and everybody is going to start off with something that looks like this. They're going to have a dev folder, and then that's already pre-made. There's nothing in it, but it's pre-made. And then you're going to have a bunch of WP Project 1, WP Project 2, and so forth down to 5 folders. That doesn't mean we're going to have 5 projects. It just means that they gave us 5 places to play around with. What that means is that you don't have permission to put stuff in WordPress. All right, it's just actually, you might have permission, but you won't even be able to see it, so it doesn't matter. So what is important though is that I was able to get them to give us a dev folder and have them turn directory listing on, so that whenever we're looking in a web browser, we don't have to know the exact pathway to a file in order to be able to view it. We can actually just go to the dev folder and sort of root around and find it. And I'll show you what that is in a minute. The private folder, if you look in here, we're going to get to this later. Do not, whatever you do not delete this. I think you might not even have permission to, but it's going to have your username or your name, some sort of form of your name. And if you were to download this file, it's going to have some information in it that I will explain later. I'm not going to go into it now. It has to do with your database, okay? But we're not doing databases yet. Right now, let's just focus on the sort of like basic stuff right here, the WordPress folder. Okay, so if you look in your WordPress folder, again, you see these things, dev, and these project folders. I want you to double click on dev, either double click down here, or you can just select it up here, and you'll see that it's an empty directory right now. So let's just do a test real quick, and let's say that we want to take from our dev folder the info.php or something that's in your dev folder, and we want to put it up inside the dev folder that's on the server. And maybe you don't have info.php inside of your dev folder, maybe it's in your htdocs, but I'm just letting you know now that you would want to put it in your dev folder. That's going to be where you put your practice file. So you just drag this over from the left to the right, and that's going to upload the file, and you see down in the bottom it flashed really quickly. You could see that it actually was telling us the queue information. And in fact, if I do this real quick, it shows you, queued files, failed transfers, and then if I click on successful transfers, it shows me that I just transferred this stuff over. Okay, so now that I transferred it, okay, well, what do I do with that? Okay, how do I see that on the web? Well, I'm going to go and open a browser, actually 2 browser windows. Okay, so I got my 2 browser windows open. On the left, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go to localhost. And then I can actually just sort of, this is what directory listing is, by the way. So I didn't type a pathway to a specific file, and I didn't have an index file in here, so it didn't load an index. It just shows me the listing of all the files that are in that directory. And so I'm going to click on dev, and then it shows me my directory listing of my dev folder. Okay, you won't have all of this stuff. You'll see your directory listing, and you'll see that this is localhost dev. Okay, and then over here, I'm going to go to the server, which is matlamp.miracosta, and then it's auto-completing for me. You would type your W number right here, but I'm going to type my name, or my user account. So, but that's where your W number would go. And then if you just hit enter, let's just go ahead and do that. Okay, this is what it's going to show you. It's going to do this weird redirection, and okay, you might look at this up here. I'm going to just lower this. You might look at this up here and get kind of confused and go, wait a second, WordPress folder, and then you look at your root level directory, which is, you know, your W number. Mine is L. Cotner, but yours is your W number. It's kind of confusing. Here, let me lower this and you'll see. It's kind of confusing because this doesn't seem to jive with this. Like, where is there an index page? It doesn't show an index page or anything down here that would reflect this. Okay, this is the thing I was telling you about that's really confusing at first. What's happening is it's doing some redirection stuff, and again, it's for security reasons. So I'm not going to go into how everything is set up, right? But just know that this is a really quick little index that you can use to jump to different folders. Okay, and I want to show you just really quickly. If I jump to dev, it gives me a directory listing, and there's that info.php. So if I come down to WordPress and then I go into my dev folder, I'm just showing you parallel structure here. So so I've got my dev, and then here's that info file, info.php, and I've got that over here. Now, what you might look at and go, wait, I'm really confused, because here is WordPress. Like if you were to look at this pathway up here and you go, okay, well, that's the root level. All right, this USA is sort of the same as htdocs is on your local computer. This is the ultimate root of the web serving directory. Even if you don't see it, you might see a /. But the thing is that nowhere under your user account, your W number account, is there WordPress over here. Like I don't see, I see L. Cotner /dev, but over here in the SFTP window, I see L. Cotner WordPress. And then if I click on dev, you see what's missing is the WordPress word over on the right side. That is one of those weird redirection things. On your right side, you're gonna, whenever you go in the URL to go look at your files on a web browser, okay, you're gonna go to matlamp.miracosta.edu/W number, and then if you're looking in dev, you're gonna go /dev. You do not anywhere put the WordPress directory here. The WordPress directory is where all of your world visible files are, but they've hidden that part of the path in the HTTP protocol URL pathway, whereas you can see it in the SFTP pathway, and that's just a security measure. It's a little bit confusing at first, but if you just know, for the time being, you're going to dump your stuff inside a dev. It's not a big deal as long as you know that you're going to go here in the URL when you want to see world visible stuff that's on the class server. Okay, so if you were to compare these things side by side, you see what we have on the left is we have our localhost dev, and then over here we've got our matlamp.miracosta.edu/ your username /dev. I'm not going to really spend much time right now talking about these project folders down here. They're a whole nother ball of wax, but if you did want to just go to your main directory, matlamp miracosta.edu / your W number, and then you get this index page. Let's look in project 1. And you see that it says it's not found. What that means is the only place where we have directory listing enabled is this dev folder. And that's why I'm recommending that any kind of practice files that you're doing, that you would put them in here. And you're not going to be doing any kind of WordPress stuff in here. Later when we get to WordPress, you're always going to put WordPress things in your project folders. But when we're just doing our practice PHP stuff, always put it in dev until it's time to turn a project in, and then I'll show you how to deal with that later. Okay. All right, so that's going to do it for the SFTP FileZilla tutorial. Let me know if you have any questions at all.